6:33 on February 12th, 2014. Select Board's meeting along with Board of Health. I have a couple minutes. Have you had time to read the minutes for January 28th?
Yeah.
Do you have a motion to, do you have comments or concerns?
No, I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll approve that. Public comment? Yes, sir.
Vern Harrington was not on the docket for tonight, even though I requested it, so I'm hoping there'll be some time for next meeting to discuss the building on Coates Ave that the town owns.
Building on Coates Ave, yes.
The DPW building.
DPW.
Yeah.
Can you submit a letter with some of the details of what, just the purchasing of it, or?
Just the purchasing. I've been trying for years
Mm-hmm.
to buy this building, so I'm still appealing to the town to find a way to sell the building so that I can, or the building, we can put it on the tax rolls.
Okay. Would you make a note to put that on the agenda for next?
Yes.
And I apologize for it not being on.
No, I apologize.
That's my fault, Vern. I apologize.
No worries.
Any other public comments? Hearing none.
I don't know if I'm on the agenda.
You are on the agenda in 2 minutes, 1 minute. So we'll get you there. Selectmen comments?
Well, we're going to have Sean first because we like him more.
You stop.
You please.
For Selectmen comments? Announcements?
No. Not tonight.
I understand that we just got notified by text that school is canceled,
I just got a text that the school is canceled tomorrow.
so
Tomorrow, right? Okay. That I didn't know. I'm waiting to hear about that.
We'll do one day at a time. Any parking bans or anything, you want to make any announcements for the snow removal issue? Total parking, both sides. Nobody parks on street. If you are, you will be,
Make contact with them. If they can't make contact them,
They will-
they will be removed.
they will be towed at the owner's expense.
Yes.
Very good. Any other announcements to do with the storm or otherwise? Having none. Board of Health announcements? We don't have anything under the Board of Health for
I believe
marijuana today.
Carolyn wanted to talk about the medical marijuana regulations.
That's still investigating, haven't received enough information, and as of right now, we have no applicants in town, and we're trying to get more information out of the DPH and more advice. Carolyn has solicited all the towns that have a license, requesting from them their regulations that they are going to put in place, and she's trying to accumulate that, but right now, DPH is still...
Just in a holding pattern at this point.
There's still
She
no
did
holding.
ask for a list so she could call the towns that had gotten provisional approval. So I believe I left that in your mail items.
Very good. Hearings. John, sorry for being a couple minutes late. Like to come up?
No problem. I come before the board tonight to ask respectfully that the board appoint a part-time police officer. His name is Nicholas Pakunka. Nick was part of our application process for reserve police officers, and he was born and raised in Deerfield. He's approximately 23 years old, graduated from a local university with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He excelled all the way through our hiring process, including impressing the interview panel as well as the ride-alongs. His background came up crystal clear, and he seems like a very motivated individual that's polite, outgoing, and has a great personality to interact with townspeople. So I think he's going to be a true pleasure to bring on board of the police department.
Very good. Have you got everything you need for getting him in the roles. We're short with a few people and a lot of new people. Are you set with the policies and procedures for getting him on board correctly?
Policies and procedures were good-wise. Obviously, anytime we hire somebody, there's expenses that come on board with it, such as new uniforms, equipment, et cetera, et cetera. Even with the recent full-time hire with Garrett Dana, it's expensive to hire a police officer. You're aware that I started doing psychological exams on police officers, and those are very expensive, but they're a huge help when it comes to managerial resources. It tells you how to effectively manage somebody. So, I'm spending a little more money up front, but I'm hoping it pays dividends down the road for us. It's like anything else. You try and adjust over here so you can keep this side flowing. So you cut back in other areas to make it work. Payroll, I think we're doing phenomenal on. I think last time I looked, we were about 5 or 6% in the positive in payroll, which is equal to about $28,000 at this point. Expenses, we're running a little bit high. So at year end, I may be just looking to transfer a few $1,000s out of payroll into expenses. But I think overall, we're doing very well.
Very good.
How many people are you down right now?
It's a little odd because we lost Felix Ramos to Greenfield PD, but he's still pulling 1 or 2 shifts a month for us. And Felix wants to stay, but with the money he's going to be making up there and details and overtime, I don't know as though it's going to be realistic for him to stay here. So he went from 12 shifts a month right down to 1 to 2 shifts a month. And we lost Chris Savinsky to Berniston PD. Well, Chris is still working for us here or there, but he started the full-time police academy last week. So we've really lost him out of sights for 6 months. And these were 2 of our big workers. So we still have 12 guys on the books, but when you take those 2 out of the mix, really you're down to 10. And then I got 2 or 3 senior guys who I refuse to ask to leave because they've been here for 20, 25 years, and they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal trainers, firearms instructors, dynamic, and they work 1 or 2 shifts a month, but they're not my go-getters that work 6 to 12 shifts a month. So I have a core group of about 5 people that will work 5 to 10 shifts a month, and that gets me by. But it doesn't get me by when all of a sudden May, June, July, and August hit, and all the full-time guys want their vacation. And those routine shifts every month of 40 to 50 go up to 90. So that's why right now I'm looking at backfilling a couple bodies. I may put on another person in the next week or 2, see if we can get them trained up and running by the middle of May, and that way we have 0 shortage. As the board's also aware, we have 3 people in the part-time police academy that are phenomenal as well. So we're just trying to look into the future. We don't want to run into a shortage where we're staffing shifts with overtime because that's a huge expense to the town. But
Okay, so the 2 others that just graduated, they're going to just be working
the 2 others,
amount?
they're 2 of my workhorses. The
Okay.
problem with them is the contract limits them to 12 shifts a month. And so doesn't any town and state bylaws, because over 19 and a half hours a week, regularly scheduled, we have to offer them benefits. So I have to be very careful what I do with them. I can put them on 2 shifts a week. Every once in a while, I can schedule them for a 3rd shift a week, but I can't regularly schedule them for 24 hours every week, or I have to offer them prorated benefits, including sick time, vacation time, health insurance, right through. So it's a very fine line that I walk. They're phenomenal. I'd love to bring both of them on board full-time, but obviously, everything comes down to money. Yep.
Okay.
Did you get your answer?
Yep. I move that we accept John's recommendation for this gentleman to become a new part-time police officer in the town of Deerfield.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. The only thing I would like to note on the storm is that we're peaking at is I'm watching the wind with this storm, and it's supposed to be very, very heavy snow, and I want to make sure that the town doesn't get into a position where we start to lose power all across town. If we run into that situation, I will be in touch with you, and we'll start looking at emergency management resources, because this storm has that potential.
That's correct. And what I've been doing is watching it come up through the different states.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania has taken a hit in the belt between the rain and the snow. And as I said, there are up over 400,000 people without power at this point in time.
That's one of my concerns. Sean, Matt Russo, and I met earlier for about an hour and a half, and one of the topics of our concern was this storm and adequately managing resources should that come into play.
Right.
So that is on our radar. Sean and I will be in constant communication, and if something happens, you guys will be notified.
Self-to fire station set up to handle that, though.
Yes, yep. We have a couple different points where we can push people. Yep. Yep. Good, good.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
much.
John.
You need me to hang around at all? Anything else? Or you need my input? No? Perfect, good, I'm leaving.
Have a lovely night.
Sean? Your turn. We'll take you 2 minutes early to make up for us being 2 minutes tardy with John.
That's all right. Just so you know, it's going to snow tomorrow.
Is it?
Really?
Yeah. So I'll let you know. We're all ready. Everything's ready to go. The guys will be in at regular time tomorrow. I sent a memo out to all of you. I think we got it.
Yes. I get it.
There's a copy over there if you need it, Mark.
Yeah, it's okay.
So we're looking at, the National Weather Service is predicting 10 to 14 inches in the area of heavy wet snow. Some places might get 18. Wind gusts to 50 out of the northeast, and we're going to see snow rates of 1 to 2 inches an hour for a large period of the storm. So,
Multiple periods of the storm. I think there's a leading edge and a trailing edge that's going to happen. So
Right.
you're going to get a couple of, really heavy snow and ice for a short period of time, a couple, 3-4 hours, and then you're going to have 7 or 8 hours of something in between, and then it's going to hit it as the second part of the storm goes by, so.
our approach to date has been with the bigger storms that we go out and pre-treat the main roads with salt. We're going to do that again tomorrow. And then we go back and hook up our plows and get ready for the next phase, which we get 2 or 3 inches of snow, we go out and plow it. And we'll continue to do that until we're done. And then we'll treat the roads again and hopefully go back and get some rest and come back out Saturday morning to clean up the center of town. That's our plan. And so far, it's worked in the past, so we're not going to change anything.
Don't see any reason to, John's been, has been indicating that the roads have been taken care of, and,
Yeah, we've
Good to
had,
go.
we've had good luck so far. As far as the budgets go, everything's in line. The highway, we expended 66% of the budget already because of the snow, pretty much. Some of the line items are over budget, but we can cover it in other places. Basically, our salt budget's been expended, and we're $5,000 over, but I can pull it from somewhere else for now to get through the winter. Transfer station, wastewater, we're all doing good. As far as the new building goes, it's going along very well. They're looking at a March 28th date that we move in. I should say the last week of March. It's been bumped up a little bit due to certain parts coming in and not being in on time, but it's not a big deal. As far as the budget itself, we have not touched the contingency money, which is $210,000. It's still sitting there. And we have credits to date of almost $40,000. So we'll run below budget.
very good.
And we're almost done. Anything else?
Is Kevin back to work yet?
No, and he won't be for a while. He suffered a pretty substantial concussion. And he's having problems reacting with light and dizziness.
Yeah, it's,
I heard he wasn't hungry, which was a major concern for me.
I would say another week anyways, Dave, maybe a little more.
I'm trying. Yeah, it's good. He could talk about him because he's relative, and they could do whatever they want to him, but,
Okay.
so. Please pass along our best to them.
I have.
Everything's,
And I appreciate you going to the hospital that day. That was very generous of you.
you guys had your hands full.
We did.
What I could do, it was very small compared to what you guys had to accomplish, so, and it was just good. So, I don't mind being part of that, so give us a call, any of us a call if we can help.
I appreciate it.
Very good.
Excellent.
Okay,
Before he leaves, can I ask a question?
sure.
So what's your recommendation for town hall in terms of whether we should be open or closed?
That's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up, so I forgot to answer that. Schools are closed, as we know. And at first, I had mentioned in my memo that we let people go around noontime due to the storm. It makes our life a lot easier, not worrying about them trying to get to work and getting in here, because it's going to be heavy, wet snow. And if they're not here, it's going to be a lot easier, and we don't have to break off our routes to come make sure they can get in and out of the place, as far as the public and our employees. So at the very minimum, I suggest that we knock off at noon anyways.
I would suggest you call it an optional day. If people feel safe and they live in Deerfield and they're all right coming in, so be it. But I would not recommend people come in if they live any substantial distance.
She's got to come from Goshen.
Yeah, but don't single me out for that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think we have definition for an optional day. In the past, Mary has called it a day where if you wanted to come to work, you could. If not, you either didn't get paid or took vacation time. That puts them in the cat's seat of deciding whether or not they want to come in to work or not. But it puts us in a real precarious position in the fact that it's going to start after they get here. And the roads are going to be, if true to form, are going to be really nasty.
My recommendation would be canceled.
Well, that's where I'm leaning. I was hoping David would chime in, and, we could have a discussion as to what are the issues. And
If it was a powdery snow, it's one thing, but it's not. It's going to be the heavy, wet snow, and it's going to be hard to move, and we're going to have some difficulties. I expect to see a few problems, and extra cars on the road aren't going to help.
The last projections I looked at, it's supposed to start between 4 and 7 a.m.
Yes.
So if you have town employees that are coming in for 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and you want nothing to do with an optional day where people live a half mile from here, I would close town hall.
And if the schools are already closed, there are people that will have childcare issues, so that will be,
Yeah, I would recommend, other than non-essential personnel, that, we basically shut the town down.
It's a good call.
So, it's not worth the safety of our employees, Highway department, police department, fire department, that's part of the job, unfortunately, so. But,
do we have any problems with water?
Excuse me?
Do we have any problem with the wastewater system in snowstorms or problems? So they would be let go too. They would be non-essential. They would be non-essential people.
In the past, they've shown up and they stayed there. I'll contact him and find out what he wants to do.
Well, he travels a long distance. I don't know what the other two guys do, but
They're local.
in the same sense, it wouldn't be bad for them to stay ahead of cleaning the place up and doing some of that. We're in a precarious situation in the fact that it's got to run. And if they have to come in during an emergency or in...
Well, we always keep it open, regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you plow it? They don't do any of the snow removing themselves?
We plow it. We do it all.
Take it, you make the definition of what's essential and not,
I will.
so,
You know, on Friday, you know, the way I look at it, you know, we look at the boots on the ground, we got John and we got Sean. You know, Thursday night, they can make a call whether we should open this or not.
That's-
Friday.
yeah,
we
that was the plan.
we should know by 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, before end of day tomorrow, as to whether or
Yeah.
not it's going to be worth dealing with.
Yeah.
So, we can make that call earlier than this.
It's going to depend on how fast we can move the snow off the roads and the parking lots with the,
Well, it depends on how fast the storm goes through, because they're not talking now that it may take them all the way till,
24-hour storm.
well, they're saying it may even go into Saturday. So, it's going to be wait and see. So, Mother Nature will do it. What it will do, and then we'll carry it from there. So, the consensus, I think, of the management group is that we will close, let non-essential people not come in tomorrow. So that works.
Works for me.
So are we closed for tomorrow?
We are closed for tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Anything else?
I don't have anything else, Sean. No? We'll probably see him around a lot this weekend.
Yeah, you'll see me around. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Richard?
Now, with his salt budget and stuff, that he can deficit spend on that.
He can deficit
Yes, he
spend.
can.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it'd probably behoove us to declare a state of an emergency for
Oh,
the town.
yeah, I need to talk to Brenda about that.
Yeah. Well, I think that basically tomorrow morning, we'll probably declare a state of emergency as soon as the first plows start to roll. We've already taken initial action to shut down the town, but eventually that allows us to spend whatever we need to,
Okay.
so.
If you just give me the form signed, so I can log it in the police log, in case we get any reimbursements out of it.
I think we'll just declare it now for starting 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Declare a state of emergency.
Yes, sir.
Okay, continuation of our ISO insurance audit. I prepared a letter with a great deal of Priscilla's help. She had a very good input. And we'd just like your blessing to send this letter out. And once I have that and I can send this letter out, then I can write a policy procedure manual, or I don't call it a manual, but policies and procedures to implement the items that are on here. And hopefully, they will raise our insurance rating up. Want this, Dave?
Oh, the fire. Just, they're here. You had one, but can't find it right now.
Hey, they disappear. It's like socks in the dryer.
That's why you have one and I don't. Usually only lose
Usually
one.
it's the other way around. I just reached over and took it out of yours. As I talked with Dick earlier, our approval is of the process, and I think he's got it down to what at least I was looking for, so I appreciate you following that. And I have no problem with the letter as written.
So I have your blessings to send that out, and then in a couple of weeks, I can give you some procedures, written document for how we're going to do this.
Well, this is one of those things where live and learn. Start with a
Exactly.
draft and then
Yes,
just put it out.
exactly.
Don't worry about being 100% accurate.
Nope.
Priscilla will help.
Nope.
I'm sure you'll have plenty of help.
I've already had discussion with both inspectors, and we've already implemented a few things already. And they're both well aware of what's going down and what's happening.
Right.
So,
And there's a lot of towns who already have
Yes.
this stuff in place, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
yeah, so,
You concur?
Yes, I do. You know, and here again, this is a move to make sure everybody's homeowner's insurance doesn't get
Well-
increased and,
the big one is the highway garage.
yeah.
You know, that's, we don't need to get any more premiums attached to big buildings.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and then moving on,
Yep.
I'm requesting that the board appoint an alternate Board of Health agent for me, and the person I'd like them to appoint is Valerie Bird, and Valerie is the health agent for Whately, Williamsburg, and Goshen. I know Valerie from many, many meetings. She's has many years of experience, and she comes highly recommended from the Department of Public Health, from Charlie Kinnicky and his forces. So, and this is to fill in if I should get sick, run over by a bus or whatever. And there's no financial burden here unless something happens.
Oh, I love those.
I don't know how else to term it, to tell you, to term that.
So I'm going to, just so that it's on record, is I'm going to make a motion that we approve Dick's appointment of an alternate slash
Yeah.
assistant, how do you want to phrase
Board of
it?
Health agent,
Alternate Board of Health agent?
yes.
Okay. And make sure that that's a record of a vote of the Board of Health, not of the Board of Selectmen.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Not for me.
Hearing none.
Now,
In favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye. Sorry about that, Dick.
Yeah,
I
I-
lost my train of thought in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's okay, so did I. And the second person that I would like, I'll term this, that I'm going to appoint is Kyle Scott. He's for the alternate for building inspector. And Kyle is presently a Northampton building inspector. And I have a whole packet of information on him, copies of letters he wrote. He is certified. He's one of Northampton's 3 inspectors. I've talked to his direct supervisor. His performance in Northampton is excellent, and he comes highly recommended. So Kyle would be specifically for filling in for vacations, sick days, and when I need special assistance for places like Deerfield Academy or Eagle Brook School, or things that can get controversial when somebody isn't, they don't think I'm being fair and equitable, that I can move on to another person. He has no connections with the town of Deerfield at all in any way, and which I think is a plus for me. So he has no preconceived notions of anything, so.
I'll make a motion for us to support Dick's appointment of the assistant building inspector.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, actually. There is no financial impact. There is money in my budget to support this in the event that I had to use them. So, and I just want to make that clear, that there is no financial impact, no increase of any cost to the town. That's it.
Very good. Now can we vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
All
asked
the-
if there's any more discussion. I didn't want to,
Oh, no, sure, well,
I don't want to feel you left out.
Okay, let me rephrase it. Is there any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor of the recommendation?
Aye.
Make that unanimous,
I
please.
want to thank you very much for being right on the ball and pretty efficient tonight. Is there anything you're looking for me at this time?
Is there any Board of Health issues that we really should be talking about with this storm coming in?
Well, I can tell you this, that John kept saying, you only live a short distance from here. I'm the one that lives the short distance from here. So I will be available to, even if I have to come down and answer phones for John or something, or anybody, I will make myself available for Sean or anybody to sit in the office or do whatever's necessary to
Appreciate that.
help them. So I will definitely be around.
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. Just, I guess, since Kellen's not here, make sure you wash your hands.
Oh. Thanks.
No, but all seriousness.
Sing the happy birthday song, too.
Yeah, sing the happy birthday. Even with cold water, it's
Carolyn,
okay.
I hope you're listening, Carol.
That's just take normal precautions, everybody. Just stay inside if you can.
Yeah.
Stay off the roads.
But I'll
Thank
be
you.
here.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dick.
All right. I think that takes care of all the announcements. We jumped ahead on the Board of Health, but I think we covered them. Any other issues on the Board of Health side?
Not that we have
Okay.
discussion items for.
Okay. Matt? Yes, sir. What can we do for you?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I met earlier today with our folks in the collector, treasurer's, accountant's office, and there are a number of concerns regarding financial administration of South County EMS. In speaking with Barbara and Brenda, the overall feeling I got was that they've been left out of the loop and haven't been explained to as to what's expected, what's going to be needed, how this thing should be set up and administered. So I was caught a little off guard.
Fire whistle?
Railroad train.
Railroad tracks.
I don't think we have a whistle anymore, do we?
I don't think so.
No sirens.
So, some of the issues that came up today, in setting up financial accounts to administer this, they've heard 501c3, which I explained was not an option. We discussed that early on and decided against that. There were questions about enterprise fund versus revolving fund, and I am not technically savvy enough to make that distinguishing decision between the two. I said I would refer that back to the board because I don't know which way that needs to go. There is concern about there was question about the employees. Apparently, with the 4 other organizations in town, being Deerfield Elementary School, the Senior Center, us, and there was one other that was mentioned, I apologize, I can't remember off the top of my head. Each group of employees is managed differently from their perspective, from their office. The schools basically has their own administration, and from what is explained to me, they administer health insurance here, or do the paperwork on health insurance?
For both the elementary and the...
Right. The senior center is managed differently than what the schools are managed because of the Board of Oversight, and the Board of Oversight makes additional decisions that they don't make here. I tried to explain that we had decided that the employees would be town of Deerfield employees, so they're looking for further clarification on exactly what does that mean? Are they going to follow our policy and procedures? Are they going to follow all the Deerfield bylaws for employees? I said that was my understanding. There was some concern about pre-employment physicals. I guess there's been some discussion around that with the personnel board, and that issue has not yet been resolved or decided. There was concern about...
Can we,
Go ahead.
my gut feeling is that the pre-employment physical is what is best practices for an EMT service?
Yes, it's something that we have not done to date. Whately has done it. I'm not sure what Sunderland has
So
done.
we should put on the agenda for the Board of Oversight to make policies and procedures as to what is the best practices to make that work.
Right.
So we can take that as an item to bring back to the Board of Oversight as to what they feel is the appropriate level of, physical requirements and mental.
Right.
So I think that the Board of Oversight needs to, and probably the Board of Director needs to look at that as we move forward. And I apologize because I thought it was clear that in this interim phase of not having a Board of Directors to determine policies and procedures and how much we want to take on our own and how it was going to work out, whether we would hire someone to do some of the interim processes of this. With Wendy, I thought I made it very clear that we were taking on, as we do with the Board of the Director, all the requirements of, and with Wendy, we changed all of the postings to comply with Deerfield's. Everything should fall in line with what Deerfield's requirements are so that the liabilities we take on are ones we've assessed. And if we need to improve or make them more stringent, we need to tell them what it is. But I think that the three towns, in the Board of Overview's thought process was to move this forward to increase the services, available services to the town, and that the cost would be shared equally amongst the towns. How we backfill that with, workman's comp, insurances, physicals, whatever it is, it's going to be, in the best of my recollection, and we'll hammer this out, will be done in a percentage with everything else. So we need to keep track of whatever our costs are so that we can backbill the other two towns for what the full and equitable counting is for our stuff. And if we need help doing that, if they have issues and can't handle it here, we can get help.
That was part of the concern, was the additional workload. They're stating that they're at their backs now, and they were looking for additional resources to help support the additional staff and the additional activity they'll be running through their office.
But,
Go ahead.
I can understand right now, I actually have a number of concerns, but once we get the director in, they'll be doing a lot of that work.
The director will be doing
The
it.
director will be.
The staff will handle a lot of
The staff, here again, my impression, and here again, I'm probably wrong, was that it was...
We're dancing quite well.
And I'm not...
It was that this was going to be set up as an enterprise, so Deerfield was going to be the fiscal agent to aid in that, but all the employees were not going to be considered Deerfield employees, because then it would come on our workman's comp, our unemployment, and everything else. So as a standalone enterprise, we can, balance it out, and kind of, for an accountant, it's a lot easier doing it that way than intermingling it all with the
Problem is it
Deerfield
wasn't
stuff.
voted that way.
What's that?
I said the problem is it wasn't voted that way. And that's the concern. That's what prompted the conversation with Barb and
So,
Brenda.
because there was also the conversation that the fiscal agent, the Board of Oversight could say next year, okay, we want Whately to be our fiscal agent instead of Deerfield. So does that mean everything gets yanked out of Deerfield and goes over to Whately? I don't think so.
And I'm not coming tonight to cast stones, and I'm not looking to make you
No,
dance.
I'm just...
I heard the concerns. I wanted to bring it to your attention. This is something that I don't have the knowledge to answer.
Yeah.
I know there's grave concern over there. They felt like they've been left out. I did mention that there is a spot on the Board of Oversight for a representative for a fiscal agent. I don't know if either Brenda or Barbara were interested in that position, but there should be somebody who can be a conduit, if it's not one of them, a conduit back and forth for information, for questions. I would almost suggest setting a meeting with Barbara and Brenda and either the board or the board from the 3 towns to kind of get them, being Barbara and Brenda, to create a list of questions that need to be answered. Maybe it's sit down with this board first to discuss how to handle it, or I don't know how we work it out, but we need to have communication so they have a
Because a lot of
direction.
our conversations were that, as this being an enterprise, you're not going to have to go to our personnel board or our, finance board. And, you don't have to go to all that in the 3 towns because, it's more independent, so to speak.
Well, I think that you could be 100% correct, but the reality is that I don't think anybody knew, and we don't know. I don't think anybody is left out of the loop because first you have to be able to have something you can tell them other than the fact that this is going to unfold, and please write down any questions or comments or concerns and get them back to us so we can address them as you're doing right now. So there wasn't anything, when we made the decision as a Board of Oversight to initiate increased services to the 3 towns in a paramedic envelope. The things that are coming to us are growing pains. And there is no way that we could have predicted. There's nobody here with the experience to say this is what it's going to look like, this is what it's going to smell like. Hoping that when we get the director in place, that he brings or she brings to the table some of the skills as to how they want to see it handled. We handled the senior center, not because it's an enterprise fund, but basically in a format that it exists. The town of Deerfield just needs to get compensated for whatever the costs and expenses are in the process. And if we don't want to do that, and we want to move it to a full enterprise fund, and we pay the cost to incorporate that thought process, then great. But we can't, with what we have at our table at this point in time, make those type of judgments. And I think that the growing pains of just covering emergency medical services at this point in time was the priority of the board, and we will have to pick up the pieces and make sure that nobody gets felt left out in the process, and that we actually have a good conduit for conversation. So we will hopefully address most of those in the short term.
And, my concern is that, we may have stumbled a little bit, but we've got to make sure that this process is not getting slowed down because of the stumble.
No, and it's not getting slowed down. I think the concern is that our folks are hearing from Whately and Sunderland that start date that we had thrown out of March 1st. And I think the feeling is, from the other towns, and I may be incorrect, I shouldn't speak for them, but my understanding is they're pressuring for, thinking there's a March 1st start, talking to our folks about there being a March 1st start, and they're getting nervous, our folks are getting nervous, saying, okay, you're talking about March 1st, is this really going to start March 1st? And my comment back was, we're in a screening process currently for candidates. We still don't have a director chosen as of yet.
Right.
So we're probably looking at closer to later in March or beginning of April.
Well, and I see where Sunderland, well, it was in the paper, how accurate it was, it's hard to say, but it was in the paper that, they're already cutting him back.
Right. Right, because
That might be a
that's-
little premature.
I agree. I just want to, we've come so far in this.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that things are done right. I don't want to create any additional animosity or stress
Right.
among anybody else. And to be honest, I don't have the time to take on managing the financial questions. I'm doing 10 to 15 hours a week dedicated on this project alone, trying to get the operational side going. I don't have that kind of time to dedicate towards answering the finance pieces. So I'm looking for help for somebody to take on and address those questions and help be the conduit to communicate with our folks here to help them understand what we're trying to do. It's a large process, as we're all well aware of. As we were talking earlier today, I think it's become, as we step into this, as you open a box, there's, 10 other boxes inside that need to be opened and addressed before you can go on. And as we keep finding those, we're trying to work through those to the best of our ability. I explained today to Barbara and Brenda that it's not that we didn't consider it or look through it. In our minds, as we built this thing, it was going to be as simple as, well, you're accounting for Deerfield EMS today, and tomorrow you're going to account for South County. And they were very good in walking me through the complexities with today's laws that are on the books about adding people to payroll, taking them off of payroll, adding them to benefits, taking them off of benefits, and all the steps that they've got to go through to make that happen. I had no clue it was as involved as what it is and takes the amount of time that it takes.
Yeah, but we're not hiring any employees.
Well, we're not, but we need to transfer them or add them to our payroll in order for them to get paid.
Right, but essentially all we're doing is adding them to the payroll. In real life, if they came and ran for Deerfield Rescue, they'd still be on our payroll. And 90% of the people that are here, and this is, you can correct me when I'm wrong, because this is where I kind of put it in that box and said, listen, it is a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal because we do it right now. But so the minute we hire somebody, or start to hire somebody, like the director,
Right.
the director could be, the kickoff point to how do we actually work through this process. As soon as we get close, then we need to close in on that thought process. And as we add people, it will be, for right now, you're talking about maybe 2 more people, maybe 3 more people in a big picture, and it's not going to be adding and subtracting. It's going to be a simple, here it is. So
There's uncertainty.
Yeah.
Right.
And where there's uncertainty, there's fear.
Right.
And I think a meeting would be appropriate.
Oh, no
Sometime.
question, but
We
right
can
now,
help to-
at this point, and I'm going to have a meeting with them and explain just what I said right here is, we're trying to figure out what vanilla ice cream tastes like right now.
Right.
We're trying to figure out how to go through this. Please advise us when you think we're leaving you out of the loop. Let us know what it is, but let us know timely.
Yeah.
If this is something that's been brewing for some time,
The Board of Oversight has voted to have Deerfield as a fiscal agent. Now it's up to, I feel, it's up to the Board of Selectmen to appoint who that fiscal agent is,
correct.
which we have not done yet.
Right.
And we should get done
Well,
quickly.
we don't have a definition for it, so it's one of those
No.
things that if someone came up tomorrow and said, I really want to be this person, I'd be looking for, what are your credentials? What is it you want to do? How do you want to reflect? Do you, Barbara, feel that this is an appropriate person? Is this somebody you can work with? That type of thing. We haven't anybody come up and say, I would really want to do this, so I'd like to develop it into who it is by what we're expecting. Is it an enterprise fund? Is it this? That fiscal agent needs to be cognizant of whatever route or road we go down. So from my point of view, it's not for wanting, it's for not having a really good, solid platform to stand on.
My concern is, in terms of fiscal agent, is the expectations that everyone else has from the town of Deerfield be spelled out so that everybody knows what the fiscal agent's going to be doing, no matter who the person is, what our responsibilities are, and what they can expect from us. And that's a way to define everything you just said.
I think that's what I just said.
And
Yeah.
in the form of an
Reality, yes.
agreement.
Right.
Yeah, we want to make sure whatever we're asking for, we can provide and that we want to provide. There's a, as we regionalize things, the ambulance service, the senior center, we're realizing that what we're doing is creating a mini county's thought process. We can't afford, the three towns can't afford. The next thing we're going to be looking at is green communities. We have a choice of hiring a contractor that all they do is administrate that function for three towns. It probably would be a good fit. But what's it look like and smell like? I can't tell you right now, but I know that everybody that sat in that office and everybody that I've talked to at the MMA conference was that green communities is horrendous, and staying on top of it consumes a lot of time, and it's something that if you know how to do it, it's pretty easy. So if you get somebody who can do 4 or 5 hours, 5 hours, even up to 20 hours or up to 19 hours in this town and 10 hours between two other towns, they can make themselves a pretty good living with something they know how to do as a contractor, as a service provider. We need to kick some of this out the door and say, hey, wait a minute, are we really doing this effectively, efficiently? Is there some other ways that we can do it? It may be we may be doing it the best possible way of doing it, and we'll continue to do it and beef it up whichever way we need to, but the reality is, with the never-ending increase in costs, if we don't start making some of these things smarter or better, we're not going to. I mean, this elementary school got in the news today. You know, we're going to cut teachers, but we're going to increase our budget by 4+%, not taking into consideration how much is paid already by the town in insurances, our systems that we give them on a regular basis adds on to that. It doesn't even cover the full bill, and they're adding 4% to the portion they have, and it's not sustainable. We need to figure out how to make this work, and our budgets are going to be looking for that kind of things. The Board of Oversight for the ambulance service is going to have to figure out what pays for them, because they're not going to stay. We're not going to stay afloat if we become this big money-sucking entity. So we're going to have to figure out how to make it work. So I would like to assure the people that we will answer all questions, and we will gladly take any criticisms, concerns, comments, recommendations, anything, because now's the time to get them on the table, because then we can have them on a list ready to talk to the director and the Board of Oversight when they start making these decisions, because the director will make the recommendations and the decisions, but it's going to be consensus, because if we can't sell it to the three towns, it's not going to work. It's got to be consensus driven.
Oh, no, I agree. I think part of the challenges is those, the stumbling as we go along. I mean, one of the things that Casey brought up today is as we move forward and we have people driving each other's ambulances, we need to get all those people added to insurance policies so that everybody's covered.
Aren't they already added? Aren't 90% of these people on
the separate towns? No, they're not.
The other towns haven't been added to our insurance policies.
But that's an oversight, because almost any given time that I go in there, there's EMTs responding from other towns driving or on our rigs. If we haven't kept that current, that's something we missed going through the process.
As a general practice, usually it's Deerfield EMTs who are driving, or Deerfield employees driving on the ambulance. There are times when we'll get assistance from other towns, but it's been the rarity now that we're
But it's not much difference when, a BHS was responding to town. They would go in the back, and one of our guys would get behind the wheel.
And
that's.
And again, I'm 100% behind what you're saying, and those are the things we need to drive to ground. All I'm saying is that, and again, it's been a few years since I got in the back of that rig. Matter of fact, I'd have a hard time figuring out what the handles work like. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that I would hope that the most qualified person gets in the back of the ambulance with the patient. And chances are pretty good that we've got some pretty good talent, that they're going to be in the back, and the most vulnerable time for the driver is with the patient in the back.
Right.
So if we don't have all those names, of those potential drivers, shame on us. I think we need to make sure we reach out and get those numbers and get it onto our insurance policies.
And we do. These are just the little things, that, hate to use the term, have slipped by.
Yeah.
Because there hasn't been a director, and we're trying to move this thing forward. I guess I'm just looking to protect ourselves in the town.
Absolutely.
And how do we identify what we don't know, or what we've been missing?
But this is the ideal thing. Casey comes up with, this is what's missing, did you consider this? You think of the same thing. When the director gets here, when the booth starts getting active in reading, who the people are, what the policies are, what the protocols are, all of that, when we start getting through that whole process, we're going to be a lot smarter. And we're going to say, hey, wait a minute, I didn't think about this. We'll pick up the pieces. But if we don't shake the trees, this stuff's not going to fall out for us to fix. And we should anticipate these type of issues, these stumbling blocks, as you call it. Me, I just look at it as progression.
And it is.
To me, it's, from my point of view, it's the speed bumps. We're going down the hill. And we're almost thankful for that little thing that slows us down just a little bit so we can think about, wait a minute, what are we missing here? So your perspective is all what you carry with it. So again, I can't thank you enough for bringing the stuff here and making sure that we close the loop with people that have concerns.
Excellent. Only other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, although some emails had gone back and forth about the Western Mass Regional Library building, did not sell. That sale fell through. We had walked that building before with the director of the senior center.
Yep.
There was interest on their part. There's interest on our part. I believe the sale price previously was about $750,000, which sounds like a lot.
750,000 is a lot cheaper.
Okay.
What? Okay.
It sounds like a lot of money, but when you look at what it would cost to build a new senior center or something to house an ambulance service,
Yep.
I think there's great potential in that building, and we should get some folks to take a look at it and figure out what we need to do to make that work so it doesn't slip through our hands again. As far as access for the seniors, it's all on one floor, it's all level ground, there's plenty of parking there. I think it raises another opportunity with the issue with Bear and connecting industrial parks.
Oh, you want to keep your mouth quiet about that one.
Well, you know what?
That's going to be a negative, not a positive.
That's okay. It can be a negative except when it comes to public safety, and I'm going to put public safety above whatever history may be there.
I don't think you'll find anybody arguing at this table. I can't speak for Casey, but I think the others have.
We have a very strong voter block in all three towns of the people that would be using that facility.
I agree.
So,
And,
but again, we don't want to rub the thought in anybody's face.
I don't want to rub anything in anybody's faces. What I'm trying to do is look out for the future of the town, look out for future needs, and look to get something that is fiscally responsible. I mean, ultimately, I'd love to see the building over next to the fire station or near that, because I think geographically it's the correct center. My challenge is we know what something like that's going to cost, and it's not going to be cheap, especially with prevailing wages. We're finding out, building a highway garage with a time frame of 3 years to get out of our current situation and get situated somewhere else. I think it presents an opportunity for us to have something with a lower threshold of pain.
There are some other things that are that look very promising in the process. So we have not let that fall off the table to be forgotten.
All right.
I agree with the thought that we've got two major obstacles, maybe three, that we got to deal with the senior center. The recreational community center thought process. But again, that needs to have a meeting of the minds of the towns to look at that, and the seniors to do the buy-in.
Sure.
The other thing was what did it cost to heat it? Nobody gave us a straight answer on that one. That's something that's a big one on that one.
Yeah, and I understand that. I mean, you need some type of an engineer to go in there and take a look at it. I mean, it's all open, high ceilings at this point. What would happen if we could drop in a drop ceiling with some insulation and zone it off? And
Well, zone it off. I mean, one of the bigger things, and one thing, it came with a resident that's going to pay some of the cost.
Right.
But the process is some of that building could be just summer use. And, as winter, people slow down, we don't have as many people show up. There's a lot of thoughts that need to go in, and we need some people from the senior/recreation/community to start talking about what does a community center mean to us, and get some people engaged in that thought process, because I don't think the seniors can do it on their own. I don't think the ambulance can do it on their own, and together you got a pretty good force, but I think the community needs to be a big target in that. So we need to get some people to come to the table and be a search committee or do something to look in that process, because I think that senior/community center is something that is desperately needed in this town. So
I would concur.
And I again, thank you very much for putting these on top of the tables rather than have us think about them but not say something. So
My pleasure. At the end of the day.
I did put copies of those emails that I had received up to a certain point in your mail files, so you can read through them. Because like he says, there was a flurry from various people.
For
the emails going around about
subject?
the Western Mass Regional Library.
Oh.
So if you felt like you needed to read them, they're on paper.
Yeah, I won't be able to make Tuesday night's Board of Oversight meeting. I'm going to be in Maine on business.
Do we have one for tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night. I think it's already been postponed, I believe, until Tuesday was the snow day.
The 18th?
Yes.
Or 19th? 18th is a holiday.
18th. I could be back for Thursday night if there's an opportunity to push it till Thursday. Otherwise, if you're going to meet Tuesday, I will not be there. And I believe the screening committee that I'm working with was going to be at the meeting to give an update on our status.
Okay.
All right, then.
Sounds like that subway got the best of them.
Can you have David get in touch with me, because we need to get procedures, policies, and process. I kind of let that slip out of my hands at this point, so I need to reactivate the thoughts.
Okay.
I think he was involved with me on that.
Okay. I'll have him get in touch with you. We did have an inspection by the state for our paramedic license. Phil Bonito found a couple of items that he wanted further clarification on. So David is working on getting those together to get those back to Phil. And as soon as we have an update, we'll let you know. There was some concern about
the number of clipping devices that you have?
No. There was a concern about there are times when we should have 2 paramedics in the back of the ambulance. There are about a dozen high acuity level calls, and we didn't have the process defined well enough. So we were going back through to further define that process. I believe when our drug license showed up, there was a typo on it, so we were getting that corrected. And then there was some concern around the training using our defibrillator. So we've arranged for the vendor to come in and do training with our paramedics so that we'll have that taken care of.
Do they have a trainer to train the trainer program?
I believe they do, and our medics have all worked, they all work on other services, they've all worked with the equipment, but there was something more specific that he was looking for, so we will comply with the request.
He doesn't live around here, does he? Does he watch our TV program?
He might.
Oh, Phil?
Yeah. If I knew for sure, I'd take a shot, but it's not worth it if I don't think he's going to be there.
You want his phone number?
No. Yeah, there's one right on the board. For concerns about typos, please call.
We did, David has set up a schedule utilizing additional per diem or part-time staff so that we can meet the 8 hours a day of paramedic level care to be provided on the days when Zach and/or Jason are not at work. So there'll be some days that we have 2 people in the building to cover those shifts.
I understand the schedule's rough at this point. It's
The
tough to
on-
keep them.
Yeah, the
Engaged.
on-call, yeah.
Let us know what we gotta do.
Yeah, we're just, like I said, we're just waiting on that. And I know both Zach and Jason are very anxious for this to happen, and I assured them we're doing what we can to try to get this done as quickly as possible. I think that was about it.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for yours.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Fun.
Enjoy Maine next week.
Yeah, I'll try. Nothing like Castine in February.
I was in Rhinelander, Wisconsin last week. The warmest it got all week was 3.
You've had it worse than I did. I got the water to moderate it a little bit.
Yeah, it's amazing. You'd think it'd be colder, but God, if the wind blows, you had it. You too. All right, discussion of omnibus budget line item approval schedule, and,
Do you want to set up a schedule to go through the budgets?
well, I think that we probably should, how many budgets do we have in?
I just received 2 more. As we're getting them, we're putting them in the binders now. Did you take your binder
I
with
took
you,
my binder, it's in the
David?
car.
Okay. What you have, you may have copies of the budgets in your mail,
Yeah.
things to be added, planning board. We've received, I think, at this point, 5 additional budgets that have been printed and are ready to be put into binders. We're doing them as we get them, so.
Well, what I'd like to do
The other
is,
big one is Sean's, right? That one.
Sean's hasn't come in. I got the police department budget last week, but we needed to type something into it. And John put a huge packet together, so
Right.
what we did
I've
was we
already
put
reviewed
the two basic budget sheets in there.
I think what I'd like to do is, we put out a request that the department heads come in with a 2% increase. And if they couldn't, to come back to us with why or why not, and explanations. So what I think I'd like to do is, anything that complies with the budget, and what I'm going to ask to make sure that department heads understand this is that complies with the budget means that they took a look at what they overspent and had to balance at the end of last year, and not compound it. In other words, lowballing things and then having to make it up with other parts of the budget is not an acceptable way of balancing the budget to me.
Okay.
So if they have issues, I want to see them come to the table so we can discuss them.
Okay.
We can put them in the budget book when we get 50% of the budgets in. Then I would probably recommend that we take either the Wednesday night that we have them and go through them, or do an off Wednesday night.
That's what I
do
was
them that
hoping.
way. I don't care what the pleasure of the board is on that one, but I want the ones that are above 2% to be distributed to the board separately, so that we can look at them for concerns and tackle them as soon as we know, rather than let it fester over a long period of time. So that's what I'd like to see happen. And I'll work with you as to determine how much is enough as far as budgets go.
Okay.
But as I said, as soon as we've got some that are, red flags are flying, I want the board to get a copy of it, and I want to put it on the next agenda. And if the next agenda is, if it comes in tomorrow, then next Wednesday or Thursday, we're going to have some sort of short discussion or whatever. And if we have those, then we might as well take care of all the budgets that we have at the same time.
It might be easier just to do it at a separate meeting, because then you just have that to concentrate on.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion, but it's up to
Well, that would
you
be
guys.
my preference, but in the same token, my preferences are not always
So that was my question about budgets.
So that, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
You left your budget book with us, right?
Yes, I
With
did.
me. Okay, so we'll just add yours in.
I would appreciate that.
The special municipal employee status is right there, Mark. This was a recommendation that Wendy made. We don't currently have a policy in place, and it protects appointees with the town of Deerfield.
I love these laws that pertains to all these, but however, there's 6 howevers so far. However, do we have to set up something to cover the number of hours?
I don't believe so, but I would need to check.
And that sounds like something to be ominous, trying to figure out how you, and this has been out of, that's what the current law says.
That's the current law. This is the top section, in quotes, is what Wendy recommended we do. It protects everyone from conflict of interest issues. And like I said, we don't actually have a policy. We should have one.
Well, this doesn't constitute a policy. This just gives you a list of people. It doesn't tell you what constituted making this list.
This is the list as it's drafted in the law. These are the appointees that are noted based on what the law directs. She went through and found every single one,
I know
so.
what she did, I understand that, but the law doesn't say anything about the fence sitter and the percent viewer, and it just tells you this section underneath, which cites this is what it should be. A policy, to me, this is just a compliance with the laws. This is wave your hand and designate these people into that status, but a policy and procedures are how to
This
put
basically
people in, how to
says
put
that
people
these
out.
appointees, and they're the appointees on our lists, our listed appointees, that's what this is. It protects people.
Yes.
It's a pleasure of the board.
I personally don't see any problem with adopting the policy. Does this
It names specific appointees as special municipal
Does this
employees.
technically have to go through the personnel board, or no?
No, this is a selectman's appointment, or a selectman's policy.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the statement that's provided by Wendy on special municipal employee status.
not the quoted section?
The quoted section.
The quoted section, okay.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Vote and establish a certain policies.
What policies?
Evening meetings, time limits to more than 4 hours or until 10 PM maximum.
You know, it's hard to set as steadfast because, you know, it all depends on how much, you know, if we're only halfway through the agenda, I can see maybe adjourning and continuing the next night or something like that, but instead of being here at 1 o'clock in the morning, but I think there has to be some discretionary thing in here too. And it's just, you know.
I agree. I would like to make the recommendation that we adopt the philosophy that we will have no more than 4-hour meeting. It's less predetermined. In other words, if we're going to have a 6-hour meeting, because that's what it takes to go through whatever we're being taught or educated or whatever the meeting process is, that we, you know, make it our philosophy that we have meetings no more than 4 hours and that they can tail by 10 o'clock if possible. But I agree with you, David. I don't think that the policy is.
I think we should be able to work with the town administrator, whoever it may be, that's when the agenda is being set up, that they'll understand some of the time constraints for each one of the things on the agenda, and just say, there's so many things there's no way you're going to get through it in one night.
And put them in a priority that
Yeah.
they need to be done. And I think that's something that I haven't done, and I think I'll probably have to start doing. So,
Okay.
the town office closure policy, payment of time to
Okay.
employees.
It was strangely ironic that this came up. There was a question last week after the office closure in the town hall. We don't have a written policy about that. What we have is past practice. And past practice was, if the determination to close the town hall was made by town officials, the person was paid their regular time, because it was a closure made, for lack of a better term, by management. If in fact the town hall was not officially closed, and folks had the discretion to either stay home or not, as they felt necessary, or if they had childcare issues, they used their own vacation and/or personal time. But this is not written down. So the question is, can we clarify that? Or,
Of course we can clarify, but you're asking, unless you have a policy that I didn't see.
well, I thought about that after a while. This is something we could address in the personnel manual,
It has to be.
which has
And
been
that's-
discussed.
Right, and that's where it really needs to go. I don't have an issue with it. I think that, as you defined it, if the town office is closed, or if as the chief had recommended that we make it a discretionary day, you come in if you can make it. If you live too far, use your head. Don't kill yourself to get here. The town office will be open. Those are very distinct definitions.
So it could be addressed in the personnel manual.
Also, yeah, and that's where it should be. It shouldn't be something, and that's where I want all of this stuff to, my preference would be that all of this stuff gets into our policies and procedures in some format, and I think we really need to be reaching out to find something that we can
I'd be
we can
curious
copy.
what the other towns around us do. Just as a point of interest, not necessarily that we have to follow them, but
Right.
just as...
The problem is we have some towns that are extremely lax. They have very few people, and they work many, many hours, and they float their time.
Yeah.
And you have other ones that have to be very, very stringent because they have 40, 50 employees that if you start being that loosey-goosey, you lose control.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one, but you're right. We should be looking at it. But I would like to see what are the policies. As we've tried to point out, as a department head, you have the authority to slide the thought process so that you make sure your people are taken care of and understood how it works. So it's one of those things we don't want to get too policy-driven because we can lose some of the things that make this a nice place to work. And we want to be careful that we not over-regulate ourselves. So.
Did you want to see policies from other towns, David?
Just more of a curiosity, don't actually, I didn't, but here again, I don't think, like Whately, there's not a clear staffing issue at the town office, so it's not like they close.
Yeah, they have
Conway or.
They have the conversation with themselves and decide they don't want to be there.
I just want to clarify before we walk away from
No,
that.
I would like to, as we go through this, because one of the things that Board of Selectmen has been asking for a long time is for us to have policies and procedures so we understand what it is. If there are some out there of similar sized towns that we can get the policies and procedures, and I think that's what we did with the personnel.
The personnel manual, the draft that we have, there's no reason I don't think, and I could be wrong, this is a question perhaps for council, when that person reviews it, because those should be reviewed for accuracy. But there's a municipal financial guidance out there that could be useful. I can get you a draft of it, but to speak to exactly what you just asked.
Okay.
All right.
We have one permit. It's a home business permit for a hair salon. It's a renewal. She's had the permit for several years.
And everything's in order, no complaints in the records?
Not that I am aware of, everything is in order. Do you want to sign it, or do you want to approve it with a stamp? It's up to you.
Well, we'll sign it because Carolyn's not here.
Okay. If you approve it.
And this went by the police department?
This has been in place. Once we've done a home business permit, as long as there's no problems in the past.
Oh, yeah, he approved it.
Yeah, he's never.
Oh, wait a minute.
No, that's.
That's something different.
It's my sign here file.
Okay.
That's been in play, that home business has been running for quite some time, and we've never had complaints about it.
All fees and applications are in order.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve Julie's at 30 Conway Street, on Conway Street,
I'll second it.
Village. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What else do we have?
Appointments, openings.
There was a request, Barbara sent an email, to request that the board appoint Joanne Carney as a registrar of voters with a term expiring in 2016.
I don't have an issue with that.
She needs, they have to have a full complement of registrars.
I move that we appoint Joanne Carney, Registrar of Voters.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have to keep my list of appointees together. I left Wendy's exit letter, in your mail files. I can email them to you if you want as well, but there's copies for every one of you, and you can go through and read it. It's several pages long.
I'd like you to have a folder for this document and field comments, concerns, or clarifications from the board members as to which they think are items that should be addressed in any fashion, good, bad, or indifferent. And let's see if we can review this at our next meeting as it relates to things that we want to keep alive and
It will give
ways of maybe addressing the issues.
give you a few weeks to think about it.
Right.
Okay.
I know, well, one thing that stuck out on this was the Energy Resources Committee
Yes.
on the Siemens contract.
What's
That was supposed to be put in place to reduce our electrical costs in the town.
Yes.
And I noticed the elementary school went up $7,000. So I'm trying to figure out,
I wish I had a better answer for you. That particular piece of, that work itself, the Siemens contract, was pretty complicated. I didn't have a lot of interaction with it. And then Green Communities happened around that. So Wendy and I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. I wish I had an answer for you.
Well, that's fine. You don't need to be in a position to have the answers, but we probably would be beneficial to get with Beth and Joe and send a letter to them saying the board is concerned about the fact that this was supposed to save us money and it doesn't. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And ask for advice and help. Does that cover what you're looking for?
yes.
This is the thing I'd like to see us kind of start nailing down. That's a significant thought of, why'd we do this, and is it going to be beneficial to do things in the future if we don't follow through with successes on our, there may be a really good reason that this happened. $7,000 is a dollar figure. It could be that they didn't take into consideration that they converted everything that used to be gas to electricity, and our electric bill may have gone up by $7,000, but our gas bill went down by $14,000. It should be an easy thing to address or to explain, or at least have a handle on why'd we do what we did if it's not helpful. So
I know what the intent was, I just don't know all of the details.
right. So thank you very much, David, for picking that out. And that's probably something that should filter to the top fairly quickly.
So you want me to send a letter to them?
Yeah, I would do to both Beth and to the facilities guy at the
Bob Lesko?
Bob Lesko,
Bob Lesko.
and say, hey, where do we go from here?
And then I just wanted to, it's on here again as upcoming meetings. Brenda and I will be going to the financial skills seminar that the COG is hosting up in Greenfield on the 19th. And the next two scheduled meetings
The
I have.
19th, that's a Tuesday, right?
Yes, no.
No.
Wednesday.
Wednesday or
Wednesday.
Thursday?
I should have a calendar.
I thought the 18th was
The 18th is Tuesday.
President's Day.
No, the 17th
17th
is
is
President's Day. We'll be
President's Day.
closed the 17th.
And you didn't make that announcement?
No, sorry.
Did you?
I
Give me
forgot.
the last chance to do that, now, come on!
I forgot it was President's Day. Ask everyone.
It's Wednesday.
So it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
It's an off Wednesday for us anyways. Very good.
So Brenda and I both see this as a good opportunity for us, but it's always an opportunity for the board to
Yeah.
attend these.
I'm trying to figure out my schedule of people coming into my facility next week, because I thought I had one, but then I found out I had four, so.
Sweet. That makes for
Wednesdays.
interesting days.
And then I have a couple of documents that we had discussed at the last meeting, a couple of things for Wendy, and then
the agreement for me.
So there you go. That have been drafted. I feel like I'm getting a cold.
It's because it's chilly in here.
If I turn the heat on, nobody will be able to hear us, including us, because it blows right out there. Oh, I know. I almost forgot to give you the warrants to sign. And the rest of the warrant, if you wanted to review it, is over there, Mark.
Well, we have to sign it.
Yep.
Because it's not on the agenda, what we're signing is things that were, as a result of an executive session, and this will be our disclosure. They were authorized by the Board of Selectmen during the process, and the first one is the authorization of consulting for Wendy to come back and help out as needed from February to May, and a contract not to exceed $3,500, just as a disclosure. Carolyn can sign at her leisure because it was agreed upon with all three of us there. The next thing we have in front of us is the board has agreed that the performance of the interim town administrator, Wendy Foxman, was superior and deserving of a bonus, and had voted to give her a 3% bonus, which is equivalent to $2,108. And the board have voted to have the chair sign. The board also, at that meeting, after negotiations with Casey, offered her the position of interim town administrator. And we have a letter of agreement that's going to be signed here that reflects that agreement. And that will be signed by all members of the Board of Selectmen and Casey. Although I see that she didn't sign it, so she must not have faith in her own documentation. So that was the last item that we have here.
No sticky on it, so that means we don't have to sign it, right?
Oh, yeah, go with that one. She'll stick a U. Find little arrows all over your forehead.
So I could pretend I'm home.
There's a lot of stickies in my life.
So,
And then I had left by accident, I left last week's executive session notation down there, so.
there is no
You can ignore
executive
that.
sestion.
No.
There is no intention to have one. So anybody that's got the agenda, you can ignore that line. Anything else to come before the board that is, did not have sufficient time to be here, it occurred in the last 48 hours and it needs the attention of the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Health?
The only thing that had come up
Hear
was
none?
Matt Russo. He
Hear
had
none?
asked to come in.
Well, he came underneath the public comments
Yeah.
and stuff, so. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn with the signing of the warrant.
Gonna wait a couple hours, don't we, before we adjourn?
If you'd like to, I'll come back. I think that's what called a suspension of the minute. No, it's got to be sometime.
I move that we adjourn.
I already did that. You just have to second it.
Oh, no, I didn't. I did ask for,
Yeah.
yeah, I did. Thank you very much.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any conversation, any further conversation or
I already gave
discussion?
my 2 cents.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.